All right, hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before we get started, giving our praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Chakodash. Double honors as always, and Salakia, damn. Double honors once again as always, unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well, taught us his truth, peace, much love. And salutations as always unto those for elect. All right, coming at you with a quick lesson to the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Shai. Lord's will be edifying to the elect. Okay, as you see by the title, agree with thine adversary. I'm gonna just start here in Matthew the 5th chapter. In the 25th verse, it says, "Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison." Right. So ultimately, the scripture, and this is in red, so this is how Shah speaking. Okay, he's telling us to, as it says, agree with thine adversary quickly. Okay, so whether that's predominantly, you know, uh, uh, police officers, law enforcement, so on and so forth, and even, on a lower, much lower level, but you want to, as the scriptures say, if possible, let's grab that. Um, uh, bear with me. All right, so now it doesn't want to pull up. So this is Romans 12 and verse 18. It says, if it be, let's go here. Shit, Salakia. Romans 12 and 18. I'll read to 19. It says, if it be possible, as much as life and you live peaceably with all men. Okay, and again, if it's possible, some certain situations, all right, it ain't gonna, it is what it is. Okay, but as much as life in you, as it says, hey, live peaceably with all men. Agree with thine adversaries quickly, man. Okay, and it's always better to diffuse a situation versus going above and beyond. And I'm gonna get 19. It says, "Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath." Fuck you. But rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, "Vengeance is mine; I will repay," saith the Lord. Okay. The NOT for 18 says, "Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone." All right, and again, that doesn't mean let people walk over you or anything to the likes of that. But hey, man, we're trying to be, as the scriptures say, we're wise as serpents and harmless as doves. All right, and we have to understand that we are yet in this day our captivity, so we can't. There's just certain things that we just gotta take the low with it, man. Okay, you could be in the right, you could be blameless, but ultimately, hey, you gotta let Yahweh Shema Shai work. Okay, and just worry about all that, all the extra BS later. Okay, we can't let that get to us. And let me see. I'm trying to look for this one. Oh, it's this right here. This is Romans 13 and 1, and the header says, "Be subject to government." Okay, and again, going to what we started with, agree with thine adversary quickly, man. And that's why uh we see Jake, especially the so-called Negroes. All right, but that's why we see Jake, we see Judah, all right, and the tribes, getting fucked up by the police because they don't do that. They don't agree with the adversary quickly. You're sitting there trying to argue the man down, you know, making up stories and shit. Well, just, as soon as you get pulled over, hey, how you doing, officer? What y'all doing this because, you know, personal testimony within it. But nonetheless, hey, you apply the scriptures, man. Okay. Hey, yeah, shit, fuck it. Yep, yep. No, I start. No, sir, I don't. Here's my ID. Here's the registration. Here's this. Here's that. All right. And don't sit there and try to go tit for tat concerning their law. All right. Because just like your black ass don't know it, hell, them police don't know it. They think that they have the power to just, you know, conduct illegal searches and things like that. But you rather just, what I'm saying, roll with that and let the Lord work versus saying no. You know what I'm saying? Because then it just makes it look more suspicious. It adds to it. Okay, it takes something that could have been very simple, and now there's a what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty much there's a detrimental consequence for it. Okay, whether it's you getting arrested, getting shot, okay, tased, all types of shit that could have been avoided had you just complied with, the officer's rules or what he wanted. And allow them people to let them niggas get that dub. He can go home at dinner, yeah, babe. I told him. But ultimately, that nigga's a loser, man. And how about Shema Shai is going to ultimately judge at the end of the day. So Romans 13:1, it says, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers. For there is no power but of the Most High. The powers that be are ordained of the Most High. All right, and so we're in captivity, okay, but how about Shema Shai set this up? So we have to be in subject to whatever the Lord has us subject to at this point in time. Okay. Now again, these things, we still put Yahweh Shema Shai first. Like when they make the MOTB mandatory, we're not taking that. That's not you don't apply that scripture there. Okay. That's when you disassociate from Babylon. All right. Ultimately, fully full time disassociate from Babylon when they talk about you need a chip because as the scriptures say in Acts the fifth chapter, we ought to obey the most high rather than men. Okay, so in that instance, whether it's dietary or when it comes to breaking the laws, pretty much, we don't do that. That's where we cut the line. But outside of that, Yahweh Shai said it best, run unto Caesar what is Caesar. So we just we deal, man. Okay, they the police or your boss, hell, your woman, you know what I'm saying? You deal accordingly. Okay, you don't give your woman no power over you. I'm not saying that, but hey, sometimes she could be the adversary. So if she want to try to argue, and you're right. Just walk off. Just cut the game on or something. Don't even deal. Your kids, your family members, just walk off, leave it be. But mainly talking about the powers that be, man. Okay, because we're coming into dangerous times, and we don't need to. You don't want to provoke the devil. It says he roameth about seeking who he may devour. Well, paraphrasing Salaki, I'm tired of shit. But Romans 13:2, it says, whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of the Most High. I want to get that word for ordinance. Let's see what that is. It's Strong's G 1296. Diatage. Let's see.
Strong's G 1296. Diatage.
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 All right, a disposition, arrangement, ordinance. Let's see if they got a little bit more. Here, let's go back. And let me oh God. Let's do Let me open up this real quick. Bear with me. Let's do the Edamon online. And that was what? Ordinance? Let's see what that has to say. It says an authoritative direction, decree, or command. Okay. Uh let's see. Row, rank, series, arrangement. That's pretty much it. But yeah, no, damn. an authoritative direction, decree, or command. So it says, whosoever therefore resisted the power, resisted the ordinance of the Most High. So you're resisting the direct commands of Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Again, we're in our captivity, so we got to serve, man. All right. Once again, I'll say it again. When it comes to the laws, statutes, and commandments, that's the cutoff point. We ain't gonna know. I'm not eating no pork. I'm not getting no tattoo. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? We ain't taking no chip. All right. But you can't call out every Sabbath. You know. Now, certain high holy days, i.e., the Passover and stuff. Mainly Passover. You're gonna be there. Okay. And if you're not, then you ain't in the right spirit. But some brothers got to work on the Day of Atonement. You know, I call out every year for Day of Atonement, but some brothers have to work the Day of Atonement. They're not in the, in the position to call out or whatever. Okay, but hey, ultimately it's still but you still got to keep it. We're still subject to first and foremost Yahweh Shema Shai, but in the time being, we're subject to this government. Okay, and that's the thing, man. The beauty of it is it's all about to change soon, man. Okay, it says, I'm gonna finish this out, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. All right. So we got those two. So let's go to Luke 12 and 58. It says, when thou art goest, or so like when thou goest with thine adversary to the magistrate, as thou art in the way, give diligence that thou mayest be delivered from him. Lest he hail thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and the officer cast thee into prison. And let's get the NLT for that. It says, when you are on the way to court with your accuser, try to settle the matter before you get there. Otherwise, your accuser may drag you before the judge, who will hand you over to an officer who will throw you into prison. And that reminded me too, real quick, while it's on the spirit. Let's do what is that? Spit on fire. It's in the Apocrypha. Let's see where we at. So this real quick, because it's tying into it. Okay. Agreeing with your adversary and whatnot. So this is Sirach 28 and 12. All right, and it really is going into the power of the tongue. You know, that's why a lot of times we get ourselves into trouble, or you can get yourself in trouble based off of, speaking too much, saying the wrong things. All right. And especially when you're dealing with people in a position of authority, and hell, even amongst the body. Sometimes you just need to shut up, man, and just listen. But especially when you're dealing with the damn devil, man, you ain't got to be going back and forth and talking. And we're Jacob, Yaquab, we're supplanters. Okay. So, like I said, you got pulled over. I'm sitting there chopping it up with these niggas, making a couple jokes and shit, making it seem like shit cool. Really, I don't fuck with y'all devils, man. But hey, anything that can get you out of that situation, okay, you have to apply wisdom. You know, sweet talking motherfuckers, man. Shit doesn't make you any. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It shows that you applied wisdom in the situation, because that tough guy spirit ain't gonna get you but so far. Even if you're dealing with a obnoxious nigger, okay. Hey, sometimes you gotta take the low with that. My bad, bro. I ain't even mean, that was my fault. Whole time is this nigga's fault, but you would rather dead the situation versus escalating it. So this is again Sirach 28 and 12. It says, if thou blow the spark, it shall burn. But if thou spit upon it, it shall be quenched. And both these come out of thy mouth. Right. So if you blow the spark, it shall burn, meaning, hey, when you obviously, as it says, you blowing a spark, it increases the flames. Oxygen increases the flame, it makes it burn more. but you could also spit on that same fire and quench it. So you have to pick and choose your battles as they tell you in the world, man. Okay? There's not a need to, like I said, constantly debate, go back and forth, bicker, so on and so forth. No, sometimes, hey, it's just best to spit on the fire, man. No, that's it. Throw a big ass, a big ass bucket on it. Leave it be. All right, we ain't even gotta go there. That's the mindset. We ain't even gotta go there. We ain't going there. No, let's just dead this shit, and that's better. Again, that's wisdom, and everybody doesn't do that. So that's why a lot of people, they'll talk themselves into and put themselves in a very bad position based off of not applying the scriptures, based off of not using wisdom. All right, this is Ecclesiastes 9 and 18. Goddamn bug. It says, wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. Yeah, right. Wisdom is better than weapons of war. You see? Salakia. Bro, this shit about to make me mad. But yeah, wisdom is better than weapons of war. So it's better to apply wisdom, than especially than to be carnal, man. And again, especially when you're dealing with uh, law enforcement, people in positions of power. Okay, you're not gonna be in the right, man. It doesn't matter. You may know all the laws and all this. It's not going to matter. You have to apply wisdom and let Yahweh Shema Shai control that situation. Pray. You know what I'm saying, and just and have faith. The Lord's gonna take care of this. The Lord's not gonna put you in a position that's gonna fuck you up. For the rest of your walk or anything that's gonna throw. No, if you apply wisdom. Now, if you don't apply that wisdom, okay, here it is you speaking about the scriptures, but you're not applying it. Well, then, in that when that situation arises, the Lord's going to allow you to be taken away with that, and that's going to be completely on you because you didn't hearken. Okay, um, and let's get here. Let's go here. Last one, Proverbs 25. All right, so like yeah, I was using a new damn device, so Jake getting old as hell. Oh man. Proverbs 25, in verse 8. Yeah, because the header says similar tools and instructions. So Proverbs 25, because this is not the book of mannerisms. I think that might be the word, but pretty much a good book of conduct. Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Sirach, Wisdom of Solomon. Those are books that you read and gain wisdom and how to walk in your day to day life. Because again, this truth is, and just a quick side note, this truth is bigger than just going to camp and putting up videos, man. Okay, there's a certain way that you have to walk and conduct yourself on a day to day basis. That's the biggest battle. All right, and again, going into the lesson, if you don't uh do certain things a certain way, you can end your walk just like that. We have to be wise out here, bro. We have to move with wisdom. We can't just do any and everything. We can't be, continuing to make the same mistakes that we made uh 5 years ago. 10 years ago for brothers that have been in that long, 15 years ago. We can't continue to make those same mistakes. We got to grow. All right, to myself first and foremost. So Proverbs 25 and 8, it says, "Go not forth hastily to strive, lest thou know not what to do in the end thereof, when thy neighbor have put thee to shame." And I'm gonna get the NLT for that. Um, well, that's kind of it's talking about court. Let's see. Uh, it says, "Don't be in a hurry to go to court, for what will you do in the end if your neighbor deals You a shameful defeat. But anyways, I'll get the KJV again. It says, "Go not forth hastily to strive," because you don't want to move in haste to like I said, to strive. Let's get that word for strive. Rayab. Okay. It says to strive, contend physically or with words, to conduct a case or suit, suit to make complaint, to quarrel, to contend against. Okay. You don't want to be hasty to to do that. You rather be what? Not slothful, but just move with a good pace, if you will. All right. Go not forth hastily to strive, lest thou know not what to do in the end thereof, when thy neighbor have put thee to shame. Right. So you just want to be mindful, man. Okay. You don't want to make any hasty decisions. You don't want to make decisions based off of emotions. That's why a lot of people put themselves in once again a bad predicament, a bad position. Okay. You made an emotional decision, and now look at you. You fucked up. You're in debt. You ain't got no crib, no car, something. We have to let that be a thing for people of the world. People in the world, they make emotional decisions. They're not prudent. When you go to the word prudent, what does it say? Um, let's get that real quick. What that scripture say? A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself. All right, the word prudent says wise, discerning, judicious, okay, with knowledge. All right, that people don't use knowledge. They're not circumspect. They're not foreseeing. They're not discerning anything. They're just moving off of emotions. Oh, I don't like what you did, so I'm just gonna go do this. Well, there's consequences that come with that, and now you're mad that it's not going your way because you put yourself in that position. You see what I'm saying? You didn't think ahead. You were not prudent. That's why a lot of this and brothers have to be mindful of self-inflicted wounds, man. Okay? The reason you in this position is because of yourself. It ain't Satan. No, nigga, you was lazy and you didn't do it. Or you did too much or you did too little. Now you're in a bad position. Okay, and you got to get yourself up out of it. Going forward, yeah, we know how to move better, but shit, myself first and foremost. There's a lot of things that was not prudent of me to do 2-3 years ago, to where now we're feeling the effects of it. Fuck, 6-7 years ago to now you're feeling the effects of it. But that's and you only grow, and that's ultimately how you're gonna learn. You can't expect to come in and just be in this state of perfection. It's not going to be like that. Okay, we won't be perfect until Yahushua returns and gives us those new bodies. All right, but for the time being, we can get better. Okay, we can get better. We can, continue to increase in the knowledge and do better. All right, change up. That's why brothers are, they're working on diet, budgeting, who they deal with, who they around. Okay, that bitch keep bringing you hell. You should have dropped her a long time ago. Now you have the wisdom to drop her and continue on your walk. Okay, should have been got a new job. You've been getting $10 for the last 3 years. You knew that job was shit. Should have been looking. You know what I'm saying? Get your ass on Indeed. You knew you was behind on it. You wasn't trying to do nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's so many examples of things that we could have done, but hey, now we're in a position where we can do better. Okay. But yeah, I didn't want to get too much off a topic, but that was the last one. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Okay. Just really again touching on that, man. Hey, agree with your adversary quickly. Be mindful, you know, lead these, let the people of the earth be. Let them have it. All right. If you notice people They're getting worse and worse as the days go by. Niggas got more of an attitude. Um, they looking at you funny and all that other shit. Just let them have it, man. Easier said than done. Okay, because it is annoying. It's like, what the fuck are you looking at? But we don't want to act on those things, man. And then especially when it comes to people that are in positions of power. If you have court, yes, your honor, no, your honor. That nigga ain't my honor. That is not my judge. But for the time being, hey, we gonna allow them to win, man. Tuck your shirt in, okay. Hey, just let these people have it, bro. And move with wisdom. So, Lord willing, this is edifying. Before we close, giving all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim Chakodash. Double honors once again, as always, and to the apostles and the elders of great millstone who rule well and taught us the truth. Peace, much love, and citations always to the elect. To the next one, Shalom.